Hello, everyone. You're here with World Paranormal Research Society, Timothy and Alexandria, your hosts for the show. And yeah, we have a haunted monastery. Some very good evidence that was captured by PJ and Philip of Paranormal Awakenings Ireland. They've been highly active in their investigations recently and doing a lot of good work out in Ireland. So, yeah.
And they were at Ross Errilly Friary, and it's very interesting. It's located in the Headford area, and it's still under debate. Established around 1460, and the ruins are among the best preserved medieval monastic sites in the country. And just a little bit of history sort of will put this location into perspective in regards to monasteries. And going back, we'll turn the pages in history. It's also interesting that the Danes were plundering monasteries as early as 795 AD. And so they were doing it at that point. But what's sort of prevalent to this friary is Oliver Cromwell invaded Ireland with the New Model Army August 1649 to really conquer the country on behalf of the English Parliament. And of course, following the Irish Rebellion of 1641, most of Ireland came under control of the Irish Catholic Confederation. And then you had, in, of course, 1649, Oliver Cromwell come in to really invade and conquer. And the conquest was brutal. And I think this friary shows part of that conquest because, of course, famine, bubonic plague, and all that was in play with this friary. And the Franciscans had loudly opposed King Henry VIII when he broke ties with Rome. And in 1538, the English really imprisoned 200 monks and banished or killed many more monks. So Oliver Cromwell coming to conquer Ireland, to really take it over. And it's also interesting that the beginning of the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, the friary was confiscated and given to Richard Burrow, the second Earl of Clanrickene. And in 1572, it was given back to the Franciscans. So it's going back and forth from the English back to the Irish. And then in 1584, gained the English crown, confiscated the monastery, gave it to an English noble who evicted the monks, and there's that word again, plundered the buildings and its contents in 1584. And in 1586, the Earl of Clanrickard purchased and again returned it to the Franciscans. So there you have it. It's under debate whether it was built, established around 1460, Oliver Cromwell coming in England. So it bounced back and forth between Irish and English hands. Brutal, brutality where monks were killed. It's just a brutal history.
Okay, so in today's show, Philip and PJ have provided a photograph that was taken with an SLS camera, and they've also provided an EVP. So you're going to see the picture, and you're going to see the EVP as well. But what's interesting is if you look at this picture, what stands out in the center of the picture is what looks like a very. A lot of people say it could be an old monk, but if you look at it, you can see like the hairline, you can see the ears, you can see like black eyes, you can see the jaw, you can see the neck. Very interesting, definitely interesting photograph there. But what stood out to me and Alexandria, especially Alexandria was the first one to see this. If you look in the left hand corner, the top left hand corner, the photograph has something there that I can't make out what this is other than you can definitely see a nose. You can see the whole head. You can see what may be the appearance of long hair or some kind of head covering, maybe a helmet or something like that. You can see the forehead. You can see the brow there. But if we zoom in, just zoom into the photograph real good, you see the teeth. And what strikes me about the teeth is it looks like on the left side of the mouth there, it looks like what we see to be a fang, a very prominent fang sticking out there. And then if you look right above that, it's a very odd nose, very pointed at the top, very, we don't know what that is. We do know that sometimes people look at images that are scary, may appear scary looking to them, and they may assume that it's demonic. Well, I think those assumptions are need to be slowed down, because if you actually read the Bible, the Old Testament Bible or the Hebrew Bible, read the Bible in your Christian Bible, in your Jewish Bible, whatever Bible, read the Bible. You know that angels do appear scary. They're not all cute, cuddly little babies with wings as artists have portrayed. And so we don't know, is this an angel? We do know that in the EVP that they've captured at the location, the name Jesus is clearly being spoken as an electrical voice phenomenon. However, what's interesting about that is PJ is talking at the same time the EVP is saying part of it, whatever it's saying there. So we can't make out clearly the second part of it. PJ and Philip think it's saying Jesus save us. Only thing that we really can make out is the word Jesus. So would this be even a knight wearing a knight's helmet? And so that pointed thing there could be from the helmet that comes down and protects the nose. And as far as the what appears to be the long hair there, it could be chainmail hanging from a helmet, because it definitely, as Alexandria said, looks like a knight wearing a helmet, which is pretty interesting, because if you look at the forehead, initially what I thought was the forehead had a raised brow. However, that could be just a helmet. It really, to me, now that Alexandria has said this, looks like a helmet. And maybe that pointed thing piece is the protecting covering for the nose. And maybe what appears to be the long hair is actually chainmail. We don't know. What do you think it is? Now, if we go back to the picture in the center, which, is a very odd looking picture, black eyes, obviously balding in the middle of the head there, and hair on each side with the ears there. The hair seems to be sticking up. You see a little glimpse of sideburns there. You see the neck. It's very interesting, and it could be potentially a monk. We don't know. Or it could be somebody else related to the monastery there. But I mean, your guess is just as good as anybody's is looking at this picture, because there would need to be more research done. The whole point of conducting research is not to go out and just catch something and say, "Ooh, guess what? I got something. I got an EVP. I got pictures." No, once we get this information, then it has to be established that you have to return to the location to see what else you can learn from the things that are there. You just don't catch stuff and stop the research. This is a place that needs to be further researched, and I think that it could be potentially a lot learned from this location. But again, you're going to hear the interview with PJ and Philip talk about this place and what exactly happened when they showed up. So, all right, well, take a listen to the interview. Okay, so we have PJ and Philip joining us again. They're with Paranormal Awakenings out of Ireland. And man, you guys have been busy. You're here with Timothy and Alexandria. And welcome back to World Paranormal Research Society. How you been doing?
We've been kept busy. We're doing well.
Yeah,
How are you doing over there?
Y'all been real busy, man. Y'all gotten a lot of media attention in different countries, huh?
It seems that way. As the fella said, business has picked up, or interest has picked up since our little capture.
Yeah, and I found that real interesting. That's kind of one of the things that we definitely want to talk about today. And before we get started, I know, can you give us a little bit of history on the place, the name, the correct pronunciation of the name, and a little bit of history on that place?
Yeah, it's actually a Franciscan friary, and its name is called Ross Errilly. It lies on what would be known as Black River. It's kind of a natural border that divides modern counties of Galway and Mayo, and kind of enters through into Lough Corrib, which is not too far from us. And it's a very old building. It's argued that it could be 1340s, 19 or 1490s. There's a lot of debate about it, but the only little bit of evidence about it is that it's possibly 1460. So there's a lot of archaeological discussions about it because they're not exactly sure of when the place had been built.
Okay. And just I know that we've looked at the picture and we've examined the picture and we discovered some things in there. But before we tell you what we found, can you tell us what is some of the things in the photo that stood out to you?
What are you trying to say, Peter? It was blatantly obvious to me when I saw it on the SLS. I was actually astonished because the SLS doesn't normally show figures the way we saw this one. You know, it usually shows everything in a stickman format. But this was as clear as the guys who were working with me that night. It was very, very, very clear. I never saw an SLS do that before. Now, there was still some debate as to whether it was a monk, a friar, or something else. So people are still chewing the cud on that one.
Now the
Personally, I don't believe it was a friar or a monk.
The question is, PJ, would be which thing in the photo are you questioning could be the monk or the friar? Now, if we're looking at the picture, are you talking about the white mask there that has kind of like the black eyes? Is that what you're talking about? Might be a monk or a friar?
Yeah, that's what people are thinking, but I'm not convinced it's either. I'm thinking of something else.
Now,
I don't think it's that.
Well, I don't know what that could be, but I know something that Alexandria pointed out. Right when she first seen the photo, right above that white mass, if you're looking at the photo on the left-hand side, there's clearly you could see an entire head of something, has a pointed nose, and it has teeth. If you look at the teeth on there, one of them, which I found quite interesting, is definitely a fang. It looks exactly like a fang.
It's definitely unholy. It's certainly not a monk. It's unholy. It's some kind of a demon of some sort, I would imagine.
Well, yeah.
There's nothing holy about it.
Yeah, if you're looking at the picture that's in white, it's Alexandria here. This is what I see in the picture when I looked at it right away. I see, of course, the individual. It looks like he's sort of baldish and he's got a wee bit of hair at the back end. His eyes are definitely black. It looks like he's got some kind of a beard, and it looks like he's kind of hunched a bit. And then the other image on the left-hand side that's the image that popped out at me immediately. It's almost like he's got some kind of a helmet or some kind of, I don't know, but you can see clear as day. It's got white teeth, and you can see the two eyebrows, very, very pointed, very distinct, sharp features.
And what she's saying may be a helmet. It could be some kind of something that was worn on the head, or it could be like to us it looks like it could be longer hair. That could be another possibility. But what really stands out is when you zoom into that picture and you look at those teeth. Again, the fang is there. When you look at the nose, it's real pointy, the nose. The brow, right there at the forehead, is extended, and there's two pointed things in the chin area. So I definitely, it's very unusual for sure.
Well, it's not human anyway. That's the fact. It's not now, and I don't believe it ever was. You know, it's some kind of demon. That's what it is, plain and simple. It certainly isn't a monk. There's nothing holy about it.
Now, what you're talking about though is that white mass. You're not talking about the one in the upper left hand corner, right?
I am indeed. I am indeed.
Okay. Well, when you look at
See, some people see two images, some see three, and there's definitely three images there, and there's none of them holy. None of them. There's no monk present there at all.
well, if you look at the
I don't believe. Yeah.
I was going to say, if you look at the one that people are calling a monk, I could see why people would think that one is a monk. I mean, you know, if you look at some of the monks from that time period, and I know the third face is right between the two, the one in the left and the one in the right. I see kind of the head is bent down. You can see a very distinct nose. You can see the mouth. You can see the jawline. I can see the face there. But I see three faces there as well.
Definitely three, yeah.
So when you first,
I wouldn't like to meet them. I wouldn't like to meet any of those guys because there's nothing holy about them. And I just get bad vibes every time I look at the pictures.
To me, I think the one that's in the one that it looks like it's in the white mass almost reminds me of like a troll or a ghoul or something.
Something, but it's not of this world. It was never a human being anyway. That's all I do know. Where you want to go after that, I suppose it's up to your own.
Well, let me say this. If you go back to the Old Testament Bible, the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament Bible that's in the Christian Bible as well, and if you read the story, there was a couple there, and the lady was standing in the field, and an angel appeared to the lady, and she was frightened. She was terrified. And the husband came out, and he said, "Why are you scared? This is an angel." But not all angels are cute, cuddly little babies with wings, as people are.
No, I don't think so. No,
and so
I don't think so. I mean, if you want to go down that road, the most beautiful angel that ever was Lucifer, and we all know what happened to him.
Yeah, we all know that story. And it's kind of weird that we all know that story because that story is very highlighted in Judaism, but it's really downplayed in the Christian Bible. So a lot of that story actually comes out of the Jewish text, which has been edited out of the Christian Bible. But every Christian has pretty much heard that story, but they don't realize it actually comes from the Jewish Bible. And so, yeah. It's pretty interesting. But let me ask you a question. When y'all were approaching this location, obviously you got the picture, but you had to have some kind of sense or feeling about the place before this happened. Like, can you describe in detail what happened?
Well, on my way down there, I had one thing in mind. I used to operate with another group long before I set up this one. And back in 2021, I believe it was, I was down there with a guy in broad daylight, and I got this EVP in the cloister area. He went back down there then maybe a month or two later with two other guys. They brought down my SLS. I wasn't well enough to go out at that time, so I lent them the SLS. They went down there, but they were concentrating on this window where they reckoned that they got the image of a lady, spirit lady. And I always had issues with it, but I went along with it anyway because they were there and I wasn't. But the more I thought about it, the stronger my convictions got that they didn't actually get a spirit at all because it was a freezing, cold, frosty night. And I was of the opinion that all they got was a light reflection on the frozen mist out in the air. And that was bad enough. Just leave that alone. But a year later, they posted the exact same thing again on another site on a TikTok. And we're now gone from a spirit lady into a fairy. And I said, lads, come on, this is all BS. So I deliberately went down there last week with my guys. And I was really astonished when the SLS picked up these figures. Now, after doing some research, I found out I'm not the only person that ever saw a spirit there. But I'm the only one that has as clear a picture as I've got. There was someone down there about 10 years ago, and they got a spirit in the exact same spot that I got mine at. So this spirit is not just a residual. He's coming and going, and he's coming in ones, twos, and threes. That's the way he's coming. He's bringing friends with him.
Yeah.
And I reckon that place was built. There's an argument about when it was actually built. They're saying between the years 1350 and the 1460. That's the argument. Historians differ on it. But whatever's down there is older than that. It's there since time began, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the thing in the upper left-hand corner definitely, I mean, from all appearances, just judging on, what my thought process is, I would say it definitely doesn't look holy. It definitely looks something of evil nature, but you never know. I mean, some angels are very scary looking, and so I have no idea what that could be. But, I mean, that's up to everybody's individual interpretation, I guess.
That's it, yeah.
But
you see what you see, and that's it.
But you would have the better interpretation of it because y'all were actually there on location, so you would know. Were you feeling like a very negative presence during this time?
We did, and we started breaking equipment, even just setting up. We broke the handles of our SLS camera, and the usual crap that happens, batteries dead again. I didn't feel too good there. And there was two guys with me. It was their first time ever out on a mission like that. They were stunned. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. And this was all live on Facebook. This wasn't pre-recorded. This was all recorded live. So it was a shock for everybody.
Yeah.
And there was many different recorders on at the time as well. We were having failure with our equipment. We were having failure with the connection, trying to keep it going on the live. We were the SLS handle broke. Everything just kind of went downhill from there. My cameras were breaking again. Brand new batteries failing. But before we had got this image, we actually caught something at a headstone that was very close by to where we got that image.
But I think that was only light reflection. I don't know.
No, the stickman figure before that.
Oh yeah, that's a stickman. Yeah, it showed itself in the usual way as a stickman, but the more we delved into it, and I started talking to it, as I would to a normal human being.
Yeah.
It got bolder. Then we saw these three images almost coming out in pure. It was almost a photograph of a person, if you like. But before we even got that, now after me damaging some of the equipment, the bed was going down, I felt myself getting very frustrated, getting very annoyed. I wanted to pack up and leave at one stage, and it was just shortly after that I caught this image on the SLS. I couldn't actually believe what I was looking at.
And I think it's interesting too when you're talking about. I've read several of the newspaper articles where, again, something that strikes me that when there was a tourist that visited in the 1830s, and they said that they encountered a large amount of unburied human remains, and there was that English tourist said that there was moss-grown skulls and human thighs, and you couldn't step anywhere without encountering all these bones all over the ground that were unburied human bones. So, and I think
that's a well-known story.
Yeah, and I think if there's the debate, of course, the historical debate when this friary was built, but again, we've discussed this before that a lot of these religious buildings were built to suppress something to do with different other pagan beliefs, that this friary could have been built on something earlier to suppress it.
Yeah. Yes, well, that's normally how Christianity starts off. You know, it would take over an area where there was pagans or Druids or whatever, and would try to convert them. But unfortunately, where you'd have paganism and Druidism and Christianity putting its nose in properly where it wasn't wanted, there would be evil there. Because if they couldn't be converted to Christianity, they would put to death, a lot of them, put to death. Another history to it then is Cromwell. You're going to hear a lot about Cromwell when you come to Ireland. He actually sacked that monastery in later years as well. So there's a lot of killings there, a lot of deaths, a lot of murders.
Now, when y'all did the location, was any of the bones still visible there, or they had to clean all that up?
Oh, that's all tidied up now. That's all well tidied up now.
Oh, okay.
Where did they go? Where did they? Do you know? Does anybody know where the bones were taken, or were they just interred somewhere locally?
I have no idea. I can only imagine it was put into a mass grave somewhere there. But people are still being buried there to this day. Local families that who own plots in there, they're still being buried there to this day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking about the SLS camera, and I know that you said you were telling me before that you actually had kind of made your own SLS camera a little bit, but I know
I just added bits and pieces onto it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not a genius. I just added a few bits and pieces onto it. I built in a K2, which is very, very sensitive, but it will only activate when there's a presence nearby. And I put on crosshairs so we can see exactly in the dark where we're pointing the SLS at.
And on your SLS camera, though, before the skeleton, the stickman, not skeleton, but before the stickman figure appears, isn't the SLS camera still recording just like the regular area, or no, or it doesn't start recording until you catch the presence?
Well, it's recording all along because the buzzer's going off, and I know there's a presence there. We had a stickman, a very, very tall stickman, before we got these solid figures. Because there's actually a headstone right beside where we were operating the SLS camera. And we believed that we were getting the person that was in the grave at first. But next thing, I don't know, was it a couple of minutes after, we got these other figures on the wall there. And it was just crazy. Crazy. And that's the only thing we got on night then. We didn't get a single EVP, just those figures. So there was possibly a stone was thrown. Yes. There's a point there where I'm asking, did you hear that? It's in my video if you watch it back. The lads reckoned there was a stone. I don't know, I was too busy trying to hold the SLS with one hand because I'd broken the handle on it, so it was awkward. And I didn't want to lose the images that I already had. I was trying to keep zoned in on them, you know. But one of the guys said it was a stone. So, but no one knows where the stone came from.
Yeah.
We're all stood in the exact same spot. But there was definitely a stone fell or was thrown. We don't know which.
It was definitely a very eerie sort of a feeling to the left of us, where we think that stone was thrown or fell or whatever. And you lost your blue K2 in there somewhere. You couldn't find it. But there was definitely, you could definitely, like, when we went there during the day, I'd never been there before, and PJ brought me up to show me the area. We'd have a walk around and stuff. You could definitely feel that you were being watched, at least for me personally, I did. And I had said it to PJ a few times that it's like whatever was residing there as well, that they're still watching, or they're still nosing to see who's coming around and that. Yes. But even at night when you're walking around, you can definitely get a sense of different spirits in it. There's, again, just personally speaking, it's like you can feel that there's monks and stuff there, but you can also feel that there's something else not right about the place. If you get me.
Mixed bag of tricks there, yeah. There's good and there's bad. Good and there's bad.
I would feel like if there was monks there at all at any of the existence of the time the place was in operation, you know, the amount of prayers and meditations that monks do I know that all that stone's going to soak up that energy, and I would feel like there
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
some type of monks still there today, some either residual energy or even just them coming back or hanging around the area because they spend so much time in meditating and praying that and it's around all this stone, which we've talked about how stone retains things,
We
so
do, yeah.
yeah,
Well,
so
unfortunately, in around 1600, 1616 or so, because of the attacks that happened on the friary by the English soldiers at the time, one of the attacks that happened, the English soldiers had burned all the records and a lot of the books that were in the friary at the time. So unfortunately, there isn't a lot of paperwork, let's say, on the friary itself because of the ransacking. A lot of the chalices, a lot of the Bibles, a lot of the stuff that were there at the time were all destroyed or stolen. There's historic stories to say that the soldiers had even forced a number of the monks to smash up their own altars just out of badness and kicked the monks out of there. And there was a lot of bloodshed and a lot of hate in around that area as well. So that's what
They even ransacked the graves and stripped the bodies of the graves. So
Oh, yeah. Anything that might have been buried that was of worth of any value, because again, in a friary there would have been a lot of different ranks of monks or people that would have been buried with certain items that there would have been
Very good jewelry.
Yeah.
well, let me ask you a question. On location there, is there a graveyard there or any tombstones or anything like that there?
Yeah,
That is a graveyard today.
Yeah, there's many graves there still. There's even inscriptions. There's beautiful stonework with family crests. There's a numbers of tombs, including again a name that we're very familiar with, a Burke tomb that's there, and we come across this name a lot as well in our investigations. But he happened just to be one of the guys who managed to purchase this friary for a very pittance 40 pence.
Wow.
The whole monastery is used as a graveyard to this very day. There's bodies getting buried in there to this very day.
Now on the
There's a lot of graves in there.
on the stones,
Yeah, a lot of graves there.
on the headstones, does any of them indicate whether any of the people buried there was a monk or not?
No, well, you just get names. Some of it's in the very, very old Gaelic. We can't even read it ourselves. But there's people there from 1300s onwards, up to as recently as about 2018, actually. Yeah. But the body that haven't even got a headstone on it yet. The grave is that fresh.
Yeah, you know what, that's still, I keep rereading this about, when that tourist came in the 1830s, noting that there was an amount of unburied human remains. And I'm wondering how long those human remains were unburied, or was it like you said, when the English came, they were trying to plunder the graves to see if they had any jewelry or whatever, and if they were buried for, because it said in the article too that the friary was abandoned, they say mid 1700s. So from the 1700s to 1830s, I'm just wondering where all those unburied human remains, who they consisted of, and how they were just left like that, and to the elements. And again, that's disrespectful to the individuals that were buried there.
Well, there'll be a few reasons for that now. One of them would be that the graves were ransacked and the bodies were disinterred to see had they any jewelry. That's one reason. Another reason is we had famines there, and people were just brought there and just tipped off really when they died because there was no money to bury them. So they were just left there. And then Cromwell and his buddies, they came along and they ransacked the graves again. So, there's an awful lot of violent history there, and I've no doubt the violence is part of the reason that I got the images on the SLS the other night.
Right. I think it would,
the bloodshed there.
Yeah, and I think it would be just horrific. And do you know of if anybody's had, I keep mentioning psychic mediums or have a medium trying to communicate with any of the, the people that are still, not wanting to cross over?
No. There was a medium to come with me last week, but something happened that she couldn't come, so I just went down with myself and Phil and 2 other guys. But I intend to go back there at another time with a medium and to see if anybody is trapped there, if anybody wants to move on, things like that. But we definitely know that there's activity there, but it's not all good. It's not all good at all.
Just to answer your question about how long the bones would have been there and the condition and stuff, actually would have been there at that stage, but about 1830s, 1860s, the bones and the skulls had been described, first of all, being unburied, obviously, but they had been there and left in that condition for that long that the person, including a reverend, I believe, that had visited, had described it that there was ivory and blackberries growing in and around the skulls and through the bones of the bodies that had been left there.
Oh, dear.
So they had been left out for quite a while. There was a story of a gentleman called William Wilde. He had visited the Abbey in about July 1860 or so, and he had described it as barrel loads of skull and bones that had, and the place had become notorious for unburied remains. And he was dismayed with what he had seen and the way that the place had been left, and that there had been sheep and cattle roaming around that area as well, which wouldn't have been anything unusual at the time because a lot of Irish were farmers as well, with very small farms. But there would have been people there, again, relatives of the Burkes, who had been trying to later on try to preserve that area and removing stuff and trying to rebury the bones and the remains and just try to tidy it up again.
Yeah. And you know what? When you say that there were skulls with blackberries growing through them, from an artistic standpoint, if somebody had ever caught a photograph of that, I mean, that would, gruesome it may be, but it would still be like one of a very artistic photograph.
The camera hadn't been invented at this stage, I'm afraid.
It would have been an eerie sight, but yet something, I don't know, peaceful to it.
Well, I know, but the English person that walked through there that found all the bones, I didn't think that was that long ago.
1835.
Oh, 1835.
According to the article, 1835.
So I don't know what year the camera was invented, but they could have painted it. I mean, or did a portrait or whatever.
It could have, yeah. I don't think it would have been a nice topic for painting.
No. There was even reports of bones being in the windows stacked upon each other like in the catacombs of Paris. But again, it hadn't been unusual at the time.
Yeah, but you take somebody like Da Vinci or Michelangelo, that's something, if they would have stumbled upon that, I'm absolutely sure they would have painted it. And, if you go back and look at some of their works, but that's a whole different story. But
there's no record of anything like that.
Huh?
No records.
Say again?
There's no records of anything like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, what I'm saying is that's something that I'm pretty sure that they would have painted had they stumbled across it. I look at that as something, you talk about blackberries coming through a skull. I mean, that's pretty creepy. And I believe a very skilled painter would have painted that. But, we're getting off topic, I guess. I just, this photograph is so interesting. I know when we set up to do this interview, you were concerned that we may not be able to do a full show just on that photograph. But that photograph it is worthy of the entire show because there's so much there, man. Y'all have caught some awesome evidence just with the photograph, just with that photograph that you have on
Well,
the.
that made my night for me. That made my night because I was swearing and cursing, and I was about ready to go home. I was really frustrated till I caught this thing. And that made everything all better. It made everything all worthwhile. I
Yeah.
thought we were going to go away empty-handed.
Let me ask you something. After you do an investigation like that, because I know with us, I've been doing this quite some time, and we've learned a lot about cleansing after we leave locations, cleansing ourselves before we come back home. Do y'all do any cleansing because of the things you captured?
Yeah. We have a prayer to Saint Michael, the Archangel, always.
Yeah. Do y'all
Before
use
and after.
sage or anything?
Oh, no. I only use that if somebody has a problem in a dwelling or something like that. I use sage to place out.
Okay.
That's all. I don't normally find any use for it when I'm out investigating because if there's a spirit in a building or in a place, I like to leave that spirit there if it wants to stay there. And if it needs to be moved on, we have mediums that come along with us and they have moved them onto the light.
No, I'm not talking about using sage.
Well,
I'm not talking about using sage to clear that location, but what I'm talking about, because you could learn a lot from that location. Like if somebody's in for the research, you could go in and still study, and maybe make contact with the things that you caught on in that picture, and maybe learn a lot more about what's on the other side or where they come from. So no, I wouldn't want to cleanse the building, but I'm talking about like saging yourself before you go back home.
No, don't do that. We just ask Archangel Michael to surround us in his white light. That's what we do, and it seems to work. But I have to say, not always. I've been stuck with a few attachments in my time. I've had to go and get myself cleansed about 3 or 4 times to a medium who does that for me.
Yeah, and you know what? Speaking of mediums, it's hit and miss. There's probably a million people that call themselves mediums all over the world here, and it's very difficult because we make contact with so many people for us to really try to verify who's a real medium, and so I get very frustrated. And then, when you're talking,
well, I have two or three very good ladies that work for me now, and they are genuine. There's no doubt about it, they're genuine. But for those 2 or 3 good ones, you're going to get 1,000 fake ones, and that there's no other word for them, only fake.
Yeah, you get the fake ones, and we were talking to one, and this one told us that everywhere they go, they pick up on things. So I just asked the question. I said, "Well, are you picking up anything right now?" And then they got offended because I asked that question. But I recently lost someone close to me that was a family member, so I was curious if they were going to pick up on that or not. And that was completely not for a show. That was just off record. That was just for me, my personal use, if they were picking up on anything. But then when they got offended and they felt like I was challenging them for their medium or whatever, I don't know. I didn't. That's why we don't interview a lot of mediums because it takes us a lot of time to try to find someone who we consider real. But
it's very hard.
Very hard.
So again, I just keep looking at this photograph that you've gotten. Like I said, the individual with the black eyes, the more I look at it, it just seems more and more ominous and completely evil and not of this world. And I just had a question. I'm sure a lot of our listeners may have the same question. Since you've been in newspapers where you are there, has that sort of given you some kind of celebrity status?
No, I wish.
Oh, you don't wish that. You don't wish that, man. Be real here, because we talked about this. You're not in it. I can tell. The reason why we like having y'all both on the show, and we keep having y'all back, is because we like people who are like-minded like us, who's about the research and wanting to know. I'm more for the research. Like, I don't give a damn about celebrity. Like I said before, if I cared about celebrity, I would be doing other podcast shows that I know we get a hell of a lot more followers. We get a hell of a lot more recognition, and we have a lot more fame there. but this is a passion for us. This is something that we love doing, is the research, and that's why we're here. And I believe that you and Philip are here for the same reasons, for the research.
Well, definitely. But if we got a few dollars here and there, that'll be fine too. But so far, it's not happening. There's nobody from Hollywood ringing my phone to ask me, hey, come on over here and do something for us. We're not getting any of that. We probably never will. But we'll never know. God is good.
No, man, I foresee that you probably will get some off of it. And, you know, because y'all on a pretty good roll right now. Like, y'all have done a lot of good things recently. You got a lot of people around the world that are looking at y'all. And I think that something's going to be coming your way. But just keep in mind that these production companies, they all about theatrics. And when they reach out to you, my advice is, yeah.
I want to run the script work for those guys. And that's all they want. They want to work on scripts. I will not do it. I do what I do, and I do it the way I do it. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And if production companies can use that, because y'all got great evidence, and y'all would make a great show, so somebody should pick up on it without having to have a script.
Yeah,
Yes, it stops being about paranormal. Like, you know, once the dollar takes over, it becomes about dollars. It doesn't become about paranormal anymore. It's dollars, make dollars. You know?
but I think
we never started out with this to become famous or to go on TV or anything like that. We basically done it because the love of it, because we want to do it. We have an interest in it, and if we get stuff that people like and we can share it and make people aware of it, that's even better again.
Yeah, and I think it's important too that I really like, and I think a lot of our listeners will like that too, is that you present evidence and you don't force people to say, well, this is what the image is and that's it. You leave it
You can take
open.
it or leave it, you know. I don't care. They can take it or leave it. That's it. If I'm satisfied I found something or saw something, that's it, because that's all I want to do. And if I can get one or two people out of 100 that believe me, that's great. And if they don't believe me, well, it's just tough luck.
Well, where does Paranormal Awakenings go from here? Like, what's your future plans for future investigations?
Well, next week we're going to a place called Latine Castle. It's in Tipperary. And it's supposed to be haunted by an old puka.
Yeah.
It's called puka. He's a shapeshifter. It comes from Irish folklore and mythology, puka.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome, I'm sure.
Entity. He's a very powerful entity. Now, we were there a while back and we got some nice photographs of this very, very tall being. He had to be at least 9 or 10 foot tall, I was making up, because we got him stood under a window. And when I went over there, I was only halfway in the window, but the photo of this guy, he's actually filling the whole window. And I want to go and see, can we recapture him again?
Yeah, because even when we got that, we tried to recreate that photo in many different ways, just so people could say, oh, well, that's one of you lads, or one of the shadows, or something. And it's like, well, no, because we're stood all in the same places. It's all caught in camera. The shadow isn't there. Whatever was caught was not us, and it did not look normal.
Yeah. I like the fact that y'all do it live, and I'm sure y'all going to be doing that one live as well, right?
No, it's lovely. Live is grand if things are in your favour, but we're finding it can be a bit distracting sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to be satisfying an audience, you're trying to be doing your job at the same time, and sometimes it's just not possible. So we have to maybe go and record sometimes. Our Wi-Fi signal isn't good or whatever, and we get frustrated because we're trying to please people that are watching us live, and it kind of takes away from our job. And our job is to find evidence and to just present it, and it's up to the people then whether they accept it and believe it or not.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I think people that are true paranormal researchers and just looking at the evidence and reviewing the evidence, I think, you know, they're definitely going to be following y'all and definitely reviewing your stuff and seeing what they can learn from it. And that's what it's about. It's about people that can collaborate and share evidence and see what we can all learn from the research that we all catch. And that's what it should be, a community of people studying the research, you know.
Well, over here, a few years ago, I fell out with a lot of groups in Ireland. They set up this thing, Para Unity. You know, it's like a union for the paranormal people. And they were all jealous of one another. They were stabbing each other in the back and this, that, and the other. One trying to outdo another. They were hypocrites. Most of them hypocrites.
Yeah, yeah.
If you got a capture, they were the first ones to turn on you, and they start trolling your page and all this kind of mischief. No need for it. Instead of saying, "Hey, that was a good capture. Where'd you get that?" They start telling you it's crap, it's BS, it's all just jealous of you. Jealous, no other word for it.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of that going on, and it's other paranormal teams that are trying to discredit other paranormal teams, and it's stupid.
All the time.
And it's because these people want to be the next big thing instead of really being about the paranormal research. If you're about the research, you have to collaborate with people.
Yeah, we've only maybe 2 or 3 groups now that we bother with in this country here, but the rest of them are just, they're all trying to outdo each other, and you know, my evidence is better than yours, and so on and so forth. And it's childish. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, they'll learn in time. Like I said, we've been doing this so long that, you know, we don't view other people as really, like, it's not a competitive game. It's kind of like a, let's share our information and see what we can learn.
It's not a competition at all.
Well, how do you guys feel about when you used to go to locations and I understand people have to make a living and people have to keep it, have money for upkeep and stuff, but there's a lot of places that will charge you an arm and a leg to go into a so-called haunted location and put you in there with other groups and charge maybe $200 or $300 per person for overnight, and just to see a possible spirit that's alleged to be there.
No, I hate
Do you
that.
think that?
I hate. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. If somebody owns a property, I can understand them charging a certain amount of money for you to come in and conduct your research because they're going to have overhead, they're going to have some types of bills, property tax, whatever. But it doesn't have to be outrageous. I knew one building that I really wanted to do. They were going to charge $1,000 an hour to come in there. I said, you know, that's ridiculous. And people get into it for the money. Like you said, I don't like that. I think that if you have a haunting or your building is valuable to paranormal research and what we can learn from paranormal research, in my mind, I don't think people should be charging a lot of money. I could see charging maybe $40, $50 for you to come in there because they do have bills. You are kind of inconveniencing them, especially if they still doing business in the location or they're living in the location. But if it's an empty building and you know it's haunted, then yeah, I don't really like people that charge money, no.
Well, most places here now, they have a fee, a colossal fee, in our terms. You're looking at €200 or €300 per person, and the euro now is about the same strength as the dollar, so we just call them dollars. $200 or $300 per person. Good. That's what they charge on these castles. Now, we have a lovely lady down in a castle called Clononey Castle. It's in Offaly. She's an American lady. She was a ballerina, and she used to buy castles here in Ireland and renovate them and then sell them on. But she's in one now at the moment. This is the last castle she's ever going to do because she's a bit old. But she's a fantastic lady. She allowed us in there one night just for a few dollars, just to pay for a light bill or whatever, you know. It was a donation. It wasn't actually a charge. You could donate whatever you felt like giving. And it was very busy at the castle, let me tell you. Yeah. We made the papers on that one as well with our captures, you know.
I can tell you this. Every location that we've done, we've never paid to do the location. We've been invited to so many different awesome locations, some mega ones, And we've never paid $1 to do a location.
Well, whenever you come over here, that's all going to change because you will be paying. There's nothing for nothing over here. Nothing. Except that lady I'm telling you about now. She accepts donations. All the rest of them are set fees, 200 or 300 per person, up to maybe 9 or 10 people. And after that, it runs into thousands. It just goes crazy.
Yeah, you know, and I think a lot of this has to do with these shows on the TV where people
Of course.
are just enamored with the paranormal. It's not about the
course.
research or science. It's just being part of an investigation, and they want to be in. It's the in thing, like all these television shows, and I don't think it's right at all that you know, people should charge. And I can tell you that people will pay that, and I know. It's sad, really, and then they get upset or they get disappointed when they pay all this money and then nothing comes of the night, because you know, you can't make ghosts perform on a dime.
No,
They'll-
you can't. I consider it a bit like fishing, you know. Sometimes you get a bite, sometimes you don't. That's the way it goes.
exactly.
Like, people got to understand that it's not like on TV. You're not going to go in there. There's chairs aren't going to be flying in the ceiling, and heads aren't going to be turning. A lot of the time, you're going in there into an abandoned, empty building, and you're basically walking around, looking at a wall, or stones, or stuff that is broken, and hope for the best most of the time. And it's only afterwards that you really find out what you have gotten. You know, it can be long, it can be cold, it can be frustrating, but other times you can go into a location and it can be exciting, and things can happen so fast that you haven't got time to pick it up.
Yeah.
But it's the luck of the draw at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you know, it's been good having y'all come back on, and if there's anything else y'all want to say that we might not have covered.
I want to play one very, very quick EVP, Tim, because I don't know that I send it on to you or not. From Errilly, where I'm walking through the cloister there, and I'm with a guy, and we're talking about old Roman-style gutters, the eaves, their eave chutes. They were used to collect water in buckets or barrels or tanks, whatever they had, and they'd use it for drinking water. And he just asked me, PJ, is this a gutter? And I'm just agreeing with him, saying, yeah. Now, I think I played it for you before, but I'm not sure. But just in case I haven't, we're going to play it one time. Now, it goes a bit fast. Why isn't it going to play? I know. We think that's saying Jesus save us, or Jesus saved us. Not sure which.
Now let me ask you this question: Is any can you tell me what's going on there? Are y'all talking in there, right? With it?
There's only myself and one other person there, and I'm the guy you hear talking. But the whisper is Jesus saved us or Jesus saves us. I'm not sure which. And I think I sent you a copy of that already. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I remember hearing that EVP. I have forgotten all about it until right now, until you just replayed it.
I'll send it on to you again anyway, and I'll send you the little movie clip so you'll see exactly where we are.
Okay.
And I'll do that in a few minutes, so you'll have it for when you're editing. And you can slow it down or clear it up. You can do what you want to see what you make of it. But I believe it says Jesus saved us.
But if it's saying Jesus save us, it could be a replay, like Alexandria was saying, of the moment, like a recording of the moment of their time of death. But if it's a spirit saying that, You know, that can open up a lot of different pathways to a lot of different questions too. Because if a spirit is saying Jesus save us, are they looking for Jesus or have they found Jesus on the other side? You see how that can play into a lot of different questions from a lot of different.
Of course, yeah, of course. And I don't make any claim. I make no claim whatsoever. That's just the EVP that I caught. As I caught it, I haven't done anything with it. So I'll send it to you, and you can clean it up, enhance it, and see. I might be totally wrong, but it sounds like Jesus saved us to me. That's what it sounds like.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I remember watching the video clip of you when you caught the EVP. I believe it's been like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago when I first seen that. And I do believe that's what it was saying too, is Jesus save us. But, you know, Alexandria being an empath, you know, when she picks up on different things, and when she was talking about maybe it was during the time, like a recording of the time that people were being killed, burned.
More than likely. More than likely.
Is that what you think?
But,
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, that's what I pick up. This is the first time I'm hearing the EVP myself when you just played it right now, and that's the first thing that came to mind. That is, you know, when somebody's at the moment of death in agony, uttering that Jesus save us. They're, you know, be going.
and you're getting a very rough copy of it now, because, you know, it's going from my phone onto yours, and so I'll send it to you direct, and it'll be much, much clearer, and I'm sure you'll be able to enhance it somewhere, slow it down or whatever, and see what you make of it.
I want to go back and tell you too that I don't know if it was the first interview with y'all or the second interview with y'all, that when I was towards the very end of the show, like you can clearly hear Alexandria and myself talking, and you and Philip talking. So I guess it was the first show we did, or maybe the second one. Maybe it was just you talking, PJ. I don't remember. But you hear voices in the background. Yeah, it was just you. It was the second interview we did.
Yes. Yeah. At first I thought it was something was scratching my microphone or whatever, but no.
No, because you were getting on your end, you were getting like the very feedback, the harsh feedback, but on our end, we were actually getting voices coming through.
Yeah. It was like as if somebody was trying to prevent us from talking to one another.
I think
that's definitely interference.
Yeah, I agree.
It was interference there.
It's happened every time we set up an interview. We had some kind of issue here. Something going on.
Nothing goes smooth. Yeah, nothing goes smooth. It'll be interesting to see tonight now what happens.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if we caught any more EVPs. Because if you go back and listen to that interview, the second one we did. Are you
still planning to go back here later in the year?
Say again?
Are you still planning to come back here later on in the year?
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. We're definitely planning to come to Ireland for sure.
We'll keep you busy.
Yeah, we need to get those some of those places down on prices that they're trying to charge, because I don't agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I know some places they're businesses and you kind of inconveniencing them. So yeah, I can understand it, but some of the empty places, no. I've never paid to do a location, so it would be definitely a something different for me.
Well, I've only paid now for 3. All the years I'm doing this, I've only paid for 3. Yeah. And one of them was a donation, and the other 2 were fees.
Yeah, man. Well, we appreciate it. Y'all have a good evening, and we'll see you next time.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Okay, take care, guys.
Thank you.
And thanks for having us.
Thank you for being.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Good night.